Hello, I'm in the bathroom, as the Americans would call it. Roger Bisbee from Skill Builder here. There's no bath in it. I don't know why they call it a bathroom. We call it a loo, WC, whatever. This one's leaking, and the customers called me in because it just keeps pouring into the pan. One time it used to have an overflow and it used to pour outside, so I suppose that's progress. But the other thing that's progress is there are now any number of different ball valves, float valves as we call them now, because there's no ball involved in it. And this one is a Fluidmaster, complicated looking bit of kit, isn't it? So it's all made of plastic, it's an American design, and what you can do with it is you can adjust it to different heights, so that if you've got a tall, thin cistern, you can bring it up, and you can also adjust the different water capacities, and you can also adjust the float here. Now I'm going to fit a new one of these, but I'm just showing you all these mechanisms here, so that you can see them clearly without having to delve too far into that loo. And you can see that by just turning that little twizzle up and down there, the thread, you can adjust the point at which it cuts out as this float comes up. So this one's leaking, and years ago I used to go around replacing washers and things like that, and then I met a canny plumber who said to me, don't do that, don't ever replace a washer, because what can you charge people for a washer? You charge them and they go, what, for a washer? 20 quid, 30 quid, or whatever it was. So he said, replace the ball valve, because the other thing is sometimes the washer doesn't fix the problem. Then you've got a callback, then the whole thing is into, well, you can't charge them twice. So now we just replace the ball valve. This thing is less than 10 quid. So, well, I suppose plus that, but you can see there's a lot of different parts on it. Now, at one time, as I say, I would have replaced that washer, but if you look at that washer now that's in there, you can see all that black coming off it. That means it's decomposing, so it's had it really. But even if that washer is okay and you replace that, it can still leak down through here, because in this part that you adjust for height, if I can do it, perhaps, yeah, in this part that you adjust for height, there's an O-ring in there, so it can actually leak down through the bottom there. So we chuck that one out. We get the new one from the Plumbers Merchants. There it is, Fluidmaster. Worth 10 quid of anybody's money, I think. And then there it is, all ready to go, different colour, but we won't worry about that. And there's the adjustment. In this one, slight change of adjustment, and you just turn it round and wind it down to wherever you want to go. Now, you're going to have to come into the loo, I'm sorry about that, but there's no way around this, because we want this to be filling above the level of the valve, the flush valve that's in there. So once I fix this little valve, I'm going to show it to you working, so you'll be able to see what I'm describing here. And this overflow, if you like, now what happens is there's your water level up there, and so if it comes higher than that, it flows down through the middle of that, what we would call the flush valve, siphon as it used to be, and that will run into the pan, so that you'll know that the thing's wasting water and running away. I've seen people leave them for years, quite honestly. But anyway, we're not like that. And in the box, let's just have a look in the box. What else we got? Aha! We've got a full set of instructions. You never used to get those with ball valves once upon a time. You can read those at your leisure. Nobody ever reads instructions, do they? So in here, we've got, this is the most important bit, yeah? So that goes on there, and that makes a seal into the bottom. Now, when that goes in, you don't need to go putting silicone around there, or putty, or any of the other horrendous things that I've seen people put around there. That rubber seal is perfectly adequate to do the job, so long as you get it centered nicely in that hole. Now, I said to you about this filling up, that's not high enough. We want to come up a little bit higher with that. So we'll adjust it by winding it out. And we'll try it again. It's a good design, this. When they first came out, I was a little bit rude about them. I thought, oh, where are we going with all this? I used to like brass, good old-fashioned brass, but now I've kind of warmed to them. If you can warm to a ball valve, I could warm to anything, actually, given the chance. Right, do you want to see underneath or what? Do you want me to show you? I'll show you. Like, hang on, stay there. Whoa, where are you going? Stay there. Right. This is what we're going to do. This bit goes inside, that bit goes underneath, and we just do the nut up until it comes tight. But don't overdo it. Don't get a big wrench on that nut and start doing it too much, because if you do that, you strip the thread, you distort everything. You've got to be gentle with plastic, and a little bit of finesse is called for. That's the cameraman kicking my... Oh, he's kicking the old valve. That's all right.
Sorry.
It's all right. You can do it. It's a job. I mean, who would want to be doing videos in a loo if they could get any decent work? Having said that, you'll never be short of a job if you can fix people's loos. Right. Floor's a bit damp. What I should say to you, before we go any further, is that the first thing I did is turn the water off. And actually, on this one, you can turn it on off underneath the loo. And when I'd done that, I flushed it, make sure we could get most of the water out. But then that last bit that's there, you have to mop out with a sponge or something else just to get rid of it, so that you can take that valve out so that it doesn't all spill over the floor. But in this case, because it's downstairs, we're not over worried about a little bit. Not only do they get their loo fixed, but they get their floor cleaned as well. And as I've said to my customers in the past, 3/5 of the world's surface is covered in water, so this little bit won't make any difference. Important point here, sorry, can you come in here, camera? When you take the old one out, there's a little washer in there. Now sometimes that washer is not in great nick. It's a fibre washer generally. You might just have to flick that one off and replace it with another one, but that one actually looks quite good, but I'm not going to risk it by taking it off. So if that washer is okay, you don't need any putty or any sealant or anything like that on it. When you put oil-based things like the old Boss White people used to use, it actually eats into the plastic and causes a leak. So when you do it, you think, oh, I've done the right thing, I've sealed it up, but actually you go back there in a few years' time and you find that it's leaking. So it's very easy to get these cross-threaded as well, so never do them up with a wrench until you're sure. Watch out, the police are coming for me. Somebody's reported me. So it's very important that you don't get these cross-threaded, and if you can do it up like that, nice and easy, you know it's not cross-threaded. But don't try and force it with a wrench, because if you're cross-threading it, it'll never sit right and it'll leak forevermore. And then we just get our spanner on there and we don't go mad. As I said, it's plastic. You're even better off, I can feel that washer, that nice rubber washer, crimping up there nicely. You're getting fatigue, Cameron.
Yeah, I was just this puts me in a very awkward position.
Well, do you know what? One of the things that I've learned over the years about plumbing is that you've got to get comfortable. And when I've been working under sinks and things like that, sometimes I've even gone and got myself a cushion or something just to rest my head like this, because it takes all the strain out of it. When you're trying to do it and you get a neck ache and then you get a headache and then you get home, you're in a bad mood, you know.
That's one camera accessory they don't do, the cameraman cushion.
They should do, because you know you get a bean bag for the camera.
Yeah.
That's all you need, is a bean bag or a cushion for your head. You can see I'm resting my head nicely on the wall.
Good use of the wall.
That's good use of the wall, and because I haven't got greasy hair, you won't get a little patch of grease after. I reckon that's good. You see, that's just about feel, basically. That's one of those things that you can't at all. Just experience to know when you just feel it gently doing up, and we're not putting a huge amount of pressure on that. We don't need a wrench. And the trick is now, I'm going to turn this on, and when I turn this on, we can see, and if it did leak, I could just tighten it up very, very slightly more, but you're almost better off not tightening it quite enough and then tightening it a bit more. So this is where we turn the water on and off on this particular one. Turn it round, don't go mad, let's just turn it on, we can hear it filling up. But what's happening now with loos is there's so many different types of loo, and you've got your back to the wall pans with the hidden cisterns, and the whole thing is serviceable through the front. So that's going over the top like a weir, and that's overflowing, and where that's coming out is in here, in the pan. You can see just running away all the time. So what we do now is make sure the water's on. We make our adjustment on this float. So we want that water level to stop just below there, right? So if I just flush this now, that's the flush, yeah? Now it's going to be filling up again. If you look on these cisterns, very often it's marked with a water level to tell you where your ideal line is, which I'd say was there, but whatever it is, it's going to be below the level of that cistern, right? So that's where we want that to go. Just wind that float down slightly more, just a little bit of fine tuning, basically tuning up. Don't worry too much about it. Okay, so we just turn that round. You can actually put a screwdriver in the top there and do it with it, but I don't bother, just do it by hand because I'm very tough. Okay, so now the tricky bit, if you like, well, not the tricky bit, but the bit that's involved here. Whenever I take one of these off, by the way, the top, I always put it somewhere safe, because one time I ever propped it up against the wall, it crashed down, broke, and that's not a spare part. You have to buy the whole cistern, and the whole cistern cost me 150 quid, so that wasn't a good day at the office. That's all the profit, well, nearly all the profit out of the job. Okay, and then that's got to go back into there, and that basically is the bit that operates the flush. So if you want to just come and have a look at this, because you won't see it once it's in. So that's the flush, hooked back on there, and that just pushes on. Yeah, you see that? So we're happy with that, and we're happy if we don't have that cable kinked. So make sure the cable has a nice free route to travel, yeah? And then it just goes back on there. So that's it. That's how to fix a Fluidmaster flush valve, and there's a lot more.
Hang on, you went a bit Sean Connery there. Flush
valve, yeah. So that's it. That's how to fix a Fluidmaster filling valve. There are lots more out there, so we're going to keep on with this mission of fixing loos. We're going to work through the whole gamut if we can. So come back to Skill Builder if you want to know how to do that, and many other little jobs, and we've got a lot more coming up, so don't forget to subscribe.